everyone, and welcome to the Leadership Heart Podcast with Sandra J. Horton, the Growth Catalyst. Well, hello, everyone. Thank you. This is the greatest day. I love my Thursdays because I get to come live and also on audio with you today. This is the Leadership Heart Podcast, here to ignite your heart, to bring in exceptional guests that will absolutely support you to learn, to live, and to lead. My name is Sandra Horton, and I am all about supporting you in building self-awareness at the emotional level. I'm a strategist in change management, and I use advanced behavioral techniques and opportunities to change behavior and, importantly, improve effective communication. And today I'm so excited to be able to have an amazing guest who has had an exceptional life, who surrounds himself with some pretty big superstars. So I'm going to bring up Mr. Deven Rodriguez. Please come on up. And I got to share a little about you because I absolutely admire you. I have been able to get to know you a little bit through our clubhouse and through some amazing connected individuals around the globe that we have. So let me first introduce you. He is not only, this is amazing, the founder of Storypreneur, which is a company that helps many people like myself who have high ticket coaches, who use storytelling to sell with ease, and truly helps them through his unique signature system that really focuses on that subconscious storytelling. I love what you do because you are the real deal. And importantly, and I love this piece as well, is you've been featured in Forbes, YaHoo Finance, Business Insider, and other top business magazines. But you're a man of action, and I thank you for your commitment to your country. You're an ultramarathon runner, and you're an active duty Army Infantry Officer. So thank you so much, Deven. There's so much to dive into today. Thank you for coming on. I appreciate this opportunity to be in here with you.
This is terrific, Sandra. You have an excellent podcast with a wonderful audience. And anytime I'm able to be in the presence of greatness, I really enjoy it. So thank you for having me today.
Thank you. Well, you know, I'm all about that positive, high energy vibe like you are. And, you know, you've accomplished a lot in your life. So that I'd love to know, my inquisitive curiosity wants to know, how did you get where you are? Like, what was that, maybe that magic ignition, that moment that said, hey, Deven, this is where I'm going with my life? Like, what was that moment? Because most people who are, you know, extreme athletes or are, you know, giving of their life to others, there's that ignition moment that says, hey, that's where I'm going. So let's start there.
Oh, yeah. I believe we all have a moment like that. And in fact, in what I teach really with storytelling, that's really a big part of it too. And for me in my life, I had a mentor of mine once tell me that, Deven, in life, we make decisions and our decisions make us. And as he told me that, I really began to look at my life and what I had been through. So growing up, Sandra, I was in a very dark place from about the ages of 8 to about 13, where I was bullied every day of my life. And it was really bad to the point where I would just come home and just cry in my bed and say, God, why are you putting me through this stuff? So I had a pretty challenging childhood. And then when I was in high school, there was a day where my dad, he called me out to the kitchen table. I was playing video games in my room and he said, Deven, come out here. I said, why, Dad? I'm just playing video games. Leave me alone. I was playing Call of Duty. That was my life. That was like during the summers, that was my full-time job. And I said, Dad, what? He said, get out here. I said, Dad, I'm playing with my friends. He said, get out here. So I said, guys, I'm going to have to go talk to my dad. So I went out to the table and he said, sit down. I I said, well, come on, I'm playing with my, sit down. I said, Dad, what's going on? He said, I want to ask you a question that I've never asked you before. I said, okay. I was like, this is a little weird. Is everything okay? He said, yes. He said, son, what makes you any different from anyone who's ever achieved anything great in this world? And at the time, I was a sophomore in high school. I was ranked like 60th in my class in the middle of the pack. And I said, Dad, listen, I don't have time for this. I'm in the middle of a Call of Duty match. Can I just go back to playing my video games? I don't want to hear none of this stuff. And he said, answer my question. What makes you any different?
Mhm.
Dad, listen. Everybody in school who's at the top of the class, they don't even have to study or work hard to get what they want. They're just naturals at it. The rest of us, we're just average. I don't know what to do. They're just better than I am, and that's just the way it is. I can't be like that. And he said, son, never forget what I'm about to say. Anyone who puts on their pants one leg at a time is just like you.
Mm.
Anyone who's ever achieved anything great in this world puts on their shirt one arm at a time, just like you. So what makes you any different? And I said, Dad, that sounds great, but guess what? I don't really care because I got to go back to playing some video games. Can I leave now? And he said, okay, you can leave now. But in life, sometimes people say things to us that plant seeds that until you water those seeds and nurture and cultivate those seeds, it don't leave you. It just keeps on bugging you. And when my dad told me that, Sandra, I quickly went in my room and then I tried to go to bed a couple of hours later. And that thought of, what if you aren't any different than those people kept on bugging me. I
Mhm.
woke up the next morning and I said, you know what? I'm going to find out for myself if my dad is right. And I said, okay, I'm going to go to school this upcoming year and I'm going to put my best foot forward and see what I can do. And then within just 2 months, I went from being ranked number 57 to being ranked number 5.
Oh, wow, that's a huge shift.
And I said, whoa, he's on to something.
Yeah.
And that opened my eyes to the possibilities that existed within me. And that was really the ignition moment for me where I saw an expanded vision of myself. Because sometimes in life, we have to go through new experiences to expand the vision that we have of ourselves because the vision's been blinded and limited by our past experiences. So it ultimately comes down, Sandra, to the questions that we ask ourselves. Number one, being able to listen to the whispers, I believe, of God, which come through other people, like they did through my dad. And then number three, being willing and open to challenging yourself to see if you can do things. And then for me, that was my ignition moment that really started everything in terms of loving the personal development world and really entrenching myself in it.
Wow. I thank you for being vulnerable and thank you for sharing, that intimate, personal story of, where you came from. And I'm sure so many people can resonate with that type of story, that moment where, your dad or your mom sits you down and says, "Hey, we got to have this talk." And that seed that's planted, that's so powerful because in the Leadership Heart podcast, leadership just doesn't come. You plant seeds, you plant actions, you reprogram, you repattern your beautiful mind to be able to work for you. So I want to ask you another question more in a line. So as you're developing, you've got this passion, you're in this pursuit. What has been maybe three of your top key learnings of how to really be successful with your mindset? Like, what do you do that can help others learn to really be that successful person within their own mind? Like, what do you do? What's your top three success tips?
Yeah. So for me, Sandra, the first thing really is thinking. I take a lot of deliberate time to think,
Mm.
and I always have. I never really, as I look back on my life, I never really accepted except for like the time before I had that epiphany moment with my father.
Yes.
I was 16 at that time. Anytime after that in my life, I've always questioned the way that things were, and I really thought about things, and I took deliberate time to think. The problem is that most people think that they're thinking, but they're not thinking. They're thinking about what they want to eat. They're thinking about where they want to go out with their friends this weekend, but they're not thinking about the fundamental questions of life.
Mhm.
And I genuinely believe that when you make time to think about what you want your life to look like, that's when you really make progress. It was Henry Ford who once said that thinking is the hardest activity that there is. And that's probably why so few people do it. And it was Pablo Picasso. He was standing one day just staring out into the world. And somebody came up to him and said, "Sir, what are you doing?" And he said, "Working." I said, "What do you mean?" He said, "I'm thinking, and that's working." And a mentor of mine, Bob Proctor, really stressed this point all of the time of the ability to pause throughout your day and deliberately have times where you're thinking about those fundamental questions of life. So that's really the first thing is having that time. I'm talking about scheduling it into your calendar and developing routines where you not only embrace boredom, but you look forward to quote unquote boredom. Because here's the thing, Sandra, I've done a lot of studying into the subconscious mind and so forth. And there's a great book that I have behind me this way, Psycho Cybernetics, right
Yes.
there by
Great
Dr.
book.
Maxwell Maltz, one of my favorite books. And in that
Yeah.
book, it talks about the idea that all great ideas come when you are in a relaxed state. Your
Mhm.
greatest ideas don't come when you're stressing out about finding a solution or finding an answer. They come when you're in the shower, they come when you're running, they come when you're meditating, they come when you're in a relaxed state. So deliberately put yourself in that. The number two thing that I'll say, Sandra, is expanding the vision that you have of yourself by doing things that are challenging.
Mhm.
I don't know if you know who David Goggins is,
I
but
know the name. Why do I know that name?
oh, David Goggins is huge on social media now. In
Yeah.
fact, that's one of his books right there, never finished. But David Goggins is like this big Navy SEAL ultra marathon, like runs 250 miles at a time. And growing up, I was like, oh my God, I want to be like that.
That's my man. I wanna do that.
Yeah, I was like, that is my hero. So,
Yeah.
as I was a junior in college, I was listening to his motivational videos and audios, and I was like, oh my God, I want to be like him. So I had never run more than 16 miles at the time. And I had went and I signed up for a 105-mile run. Now,
Wow.
the big thing, Sandra, was this was in May. The race was in October, but from June to September, I was going to be gone doing military training. I was in ROTC at the time, so I had no time to train for this run. So I was gone all summer, and then September 5th, I think it was 2019, I decided to sign up for a 31-mile run the next day because I said I want to try to see how this is like. How does it feel to go 31 miles? I never gone past 16. So I signed up for the 31-mile race. I didn't know what the heck I was doing, but I finished it. I was like, okay, not bad. So then the next month comes and I have a 105-mile run. And I didn't know anything about the importance of nutrition, the importance of a lot of different aspects that people don't think about when it comes to running
Mhm.
long distances. And I started off that race very well. And then about 50 miles in, I like totally collapsed. And for the last
Oh,
50 miles of that run, it was such a struggle, especially the last lap. It took me like 4.5 hours to go 10 miles, which is ridiculous. I couldn't lift my feet off the ground because my hip flexors were so destroyed. By the way, I do not recommend this at
you
all.
don't do this, everyone. Don't do
Don't do this. Prepare and train, please.
Yes. Prepare.
But after I crossed that finish line in 24 hours and 36 minutes, it expanded the vision that I have of myself. I said, if I could do this, what can I do? And if I can do this, well, what can't I do? And that opened the world of possibility to me. I couldn't get that through meditation. There's just some things that you can't get by sitting in your chair and thinking things through. So on the one hand, you have to think, but also you have to do things that scare the hell out of you and enable you to become a different person in the process. Because in those 105 miles, in those 24 hours, I lived about 5 years because I cried, I was happy, I was angry, I was upset. And those long endurance races enable me to become better at life. So that's the second thing, Sandra. And the last thing is the power of mentorship. This has changed my life, fundamentally changed my life. And I didn't really understand this until a mentor of mine came into my life, Les Brown. There was an
God
opportunity.
bless Brown.
Yeah, the
Let's put those
legend.
quotations on that.
And he was somebody that changed my life from a young age when I was going through those dark periods of time in terms of being bullied and so forth. And then when my life turned around and I started to just love personal development, he was the one that I really wanted to be like. I wanted to be this big motivational speaker. In 2021, I had this opportunity as I was listening to him on Clubhouse, Sandra. He was talking about this big program that he was developing called Hungry to Speak, and how he's going to work with a select number of speakers that want to learn how to share their story and learn how to speak. And he's going to teach you how to share your story. He's going to teach you how to get on stage. He's going to teach you how to do this. And I was just getting so excited as I heard him sharing about this new program until he got to the price. Now, at this point, I had just got a new job in the military. I had just bought a house and I had just bought a car.
Wow.
I ain't really have the money. And he said it cost $297 a month. Now, looking back on that, that's like chump change now.
Yeah.
But at the time, I was like, oh no, I can't afford that. Did he say $29.97? I mean, you ever really wanted to do something really badly, but you felt like you just didn't have the money to do it. Mm-hmm. And that's what I felt like at the time. So I did what I've done throughout my life. I called up my dad. I said, Dad, you know Les Brown? He said, yeah. I said, he's having this program. I really want to do it. He said, okay, so do it. What's the problem? I said, Dad, it's $297 a month. He said, you need me to lend you the money? No, Dad, you've done enough for me. So he said these words. He said, figure it out. And I did this practice that I do now every time that I'm faced with a decision to invest in myself or not. I took out my credit card that I had that I got when I was 17 years old that had 30% interest on it. And I held it out in front of me. And I asked myself this question. I said, Deven, are your goals and your dreams worth it? And I sat there and I thought about it. I was like, oh, I'm going to go into debt. Oh, I don't have the money. Oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I say, yes, they are. And I input my credit card into the system, joined the program, and that developed into an incredible turn of events that led into me being personally coached by him. And it changed my life. I learned more in 6 months than I had learned in the past 8 years. And that had taught me the power of collapsing time frames. Mm-hmm. And the way that you do that, the way that you collapse time and you get what you typically get done in 8 years done in 1 year is you pay people who have done what you want to do to show you how to do it. The power of mentorship. And then that transformed, that $297 transformed into spending like ridiculous amounts of money on mentorship because I value time so much more than I value money. I can always get my money back, but I can't get my time back. And the mentors that I've had in my life have really just done incredible things. So those are 3 things that I would say, Sandra.
Wow. Thank you, Deven. And, you know, you've touched on some really powerful pieces there. you spoke not only just from your heart, but from your experience and how you've made value judgments. You're aligning your values of who you are and choosing yourself. That self-love piece is so key. Now, I know you're very, very successful in what you're doing. So that investment of 200, what was it, $97 is now generating all this amazing success for yourself. But importantly, I love for you to really share, how did you then, with all this great new training and this education that you're getting from the amazing, like Les Brown's and other mentors, what did you do to then apply it? That's the key. One thing, like my mentor, Rex Sykes, always says, you need to be it, do it, and have it. You got to be it. So what did you do to be it? What did you you developed the Storypreneur. Like, what was that process like so you could help others who may be just like you, who are in that moment?
Yeah, Sandra, when I joined Les Brown's program, I was at that place in my life where I
Mhm.
just was obsessed with becoming a motivational speaker. Like, that's really what I
Yeah,
wanted to
I can
do.
relate to that. I
Yeah, like
can.
that's what I really wanted to do at the time.
Yeah.
And I believe that when you join a program, or when you have something that you're really obsessed about, you have to be kind of the weird one. What I mean when I say that is, when I joined that program, like every day we had a Facebook group, and I would post at least once a day in that group, like delivering a 10-minute talk. So I was just everywhere, just practicing the skill of speaking. Because here's the thing, a lot of people read books, watch YouTube videos, or even take a course on speaking. But my mentor told me, he said, Deven, speakers speak.
Mhm.
You can't get better at speaking by reading a book. It can give you ideas, but imagine you're not a good swimmer and you just picked up a book and you read about how to become a better swimmer, but you never got in the water. You would never get better
Yeah,
because
no.
you're not having the actual experience of doing the thing.
Yeah.
Now, there might be some people watching this, but Deven, I don't know how to get on stages and do all of this stuff. Great. Go talk to your trees. Go talk. I'm serious. Go talk to people on Facebook Live, Instagram Live, wherever.
Anywhere,
Yes,
anywhere.
because you're going to develop the skill of speaking. So that's the first piece, is I was just obsessed with doing it.
Mhm.
And when you do that and you're coached by someone in the communication space, like Les Brown, he just noticed that in me.
Mhm.
And it was like, wow, okay, this guy's really committed to this. So that's the first thing, is being really committed to it and then doing the action of it. It really benefited me. So it might have taken some other people a long time to see results. For me, it was like, I'm all in on this. I really want to do this. So that's the first piece. So once I started to develop my skills, like everything transformed so fast. I mean, I wish I could pull up a video of me about five years ago. 'Cause I'm from New
Mhm.
York City. I had this, hey, how you doing? I'm from New York City. My name's Deven
Oh,
Rodriguez.
wow.
How you doing? Like a heavy accent. Now people can't even tell that I'm from New York,
I couldn't tell that. Wow, that's amazing.
because the voice is
Yeah.
a tool that can be developed. And I asked Les Brown when I was speaking to him once, I said, sir, is that voice, because he has a very iconic voice, you can't miss his voice. I said,
True.
is that natural? And he said, no, this voice is developed. And that taught me the power that I can develop my voice too. So as
Mhm.
I started, Sandra, to develop my ability to communicate, people started to notice. And I was on Clubhouse at the time, and a woman named Heidi Wild. Do you know Heidi?
Oh, I know Heidi. She's brilliant. Love Heidi.
Well, I was sharing a lot of stories, and Clubhouse was really popular at the time. She sent me a
Yeah.
message one day. She said, Deven, you should really think about teaching people this. I said, teaching people what? 'Cause at the time, I was a life coach, right? I had just done a certification. It was like $4,000, another big investment. And it was really, really great program. I'm happy I did it. And she said, Deven, you should really consider teaching people how to tell their story. I said, Heidi, that's great. But I'm a life coach. If you guys ever met a life coach, they're very concrete in the fact that
Mhm.
they are a life coach. And if you tell them anything different, it's like, how dare you say?
Their conviction's pretty strong.
Yeah, they have some conviction, boy.
Oh,
But
yeah.
there was something that happened. I checked my bank account and I had negative $7. So
Mm.
I was a very broke life coach. So I said, Sandra, I mean, not Sandra, Heidi, are
Yeah.
you are you serious about what you said? And she said, yes, I am. I think you could really help a lot of people. So I said, what do I have to lose? I didn't have no system, no frameworks, no experience teaching people this. Started to host rooms on Clubhouse, and 4 people trusted me with $119 a month. And I said, guys, listen, I don't know what the hell I'm doing, but we're going to figure it out. And these people really wanted to share their story, and the results were incredible, Sandra. There
Mm.
was a woman that I worked with. She suffered from such social anxiety that she was a selective mute, meaning she literally did not
Oh,
speak, but she wanted to develop the skill and wanted to help other people who kind of felt similar to her. Within a couple of months, she learned how to share her story. She went on to speak in front of 60,000 people on TV.
oh, wow. Congratulations. That's amazing. Wow.
There was another woman named Sherry. I didn't know this at the time. She had a major stroke, and she joined my program simply because she wanted to develop her speech again, like her
Mm.
physical speech, because a
Right.
stroke can impair your ability to speak.
Yep.
Well, she was a nurse for 20 years. When she had the stroke, she had to quit her job. Little did I know she wanted to start her own business of teaching coaches and online course creators how to develop their online courses. Within a couple of months, she went from earning $0 to $5,000 a month. I said, what the heck's going on here?
What is going on there? I need to
Yeah,
investigate.
what is
Yeah.
going on here?
Yeah.
But then I did what a lot of entrepreneurs do. I stopped doing what worked. And I
Mm.
said, you know what? I'm not doing this storytelling coaching no more. I'm going to teach other coaches how to build their business just like I do. Just like I did. Because I looked at Russell Brunson, I looked
Right.
at Grant Cardone. I said, what are all these
Yeah.
cool guys doing? Oh, they're all teaching people how to build their own business. I'm going to do that.
Mm.
My heart wasn't in that place.
Yeah.
I started to do that, and in 4 months, I did squat diddly. I didn't do anything because my heart wasn't in it. My
Yeah.
girlfriend turned to me and she said, Devin, you got to do what worked and what you loved. I said, what was that?
Yeah.
She said, teaching people how to communicate their story. And this was April. And from January to April, I had done nothing, no social media stuff. I just
No.
didn't, my heart wasn't there.
Yeah.
And I sat there and I said, okay, if I'm going to do this, I said, I want to do this right. Who do I really like to serve? I like to serve entrepreneurs.
Mhm.
What do I really like to teach them? I really like to teach them storytelling. Huh. So what if I create something called Storypreneur? Oh, wow.
Light bulb.
Light bulb moment. But
Light
then I
bulb
went
moment.
to GoDaddy,
Yep.
GoDaddy.com, and
Gotta go to GoDaddy and get that register. Yes.
I typed in Storypreneur.com, and I almost pooped my pants because I had negative money in my bank account, about
Yeah.
$16,000 in debt because I've invested in so many mentors, and the
Mm.
domain cost $2,500. I said, oh my God.
The pain, Devin, the
There goes. Well, I'm just going to go to somewhere else. I'm just going to get another. And then I
pain.
asked myself that question, but I changed it a little bit. I
Yep.
said, Devin, is your brand worth it?
Mm.
And I said, you know what? It is. And I bought it, put it on a credit card. And that was the beginning of Storypreneur. And at that point, I made the decision that I really just wanted to focus with business owners and helping them learn how to craft and develop a story. And then, Sandra, there was one more defining moment that came
Mm.
a couple of months later, where I had a student of mine who she wanted to become a coach. She was 65 years old. She was a caregiver, taking care of her
Mhm.
sickly husband. And she wanted to help other caregivers practice self-care and live a balanced life, because what she noticed was that a lot of caregivers care for others but lose themselves in the process. She said, Devin, I have an idea, but I don't have a product. I don't have a service. I don't have an offer. I got nothing but this idea. She had been a speaker for 20 years,
Oh, wow.
and we structured her story. She had an opportunity in church, of all places. Who sells things in church? Nobody besides the pastor.
Exactly.
the pastor said, "Hey, there was a day before church where they were having breakfast, and the pastor came to her and said, Vendi, I don't know what's been happening to you over the past few months, but you've just developed so much as a speaker. Can you go up on the altar while we have breakfast and tell your story of why you want to help caregivers?" And she said, um, I guess. So she went up on the stage, no preparation, but she was grounded in her training. And she said, Deven, it was crazy. I just told the story of why I do what I do. And I captivated the room. I said, wow, that's great. She said, no, that's not the best part. I said, what is? She said, Deven, I got done speaking, standing ovation. But before I could walk off that stage, a group of ladies got out of their seat and ran to the stage. And they said, Vendi, how can we work with you? I don't care what it takes. And she was literally forced to take their money and start her business because of
Wow,
her
that's
ability
awesome.
to share her story. And at that moment, I said, no, this is a lot bigger than just helping people tell their story to inspire the
Mhm.
world. Now, people, what I teach specifically is how do I deliver a presentation that not only inspires and impacts, but enables me to sell what I have in a way that is not obnoxiously salesy and in a way that people actually love to buy. So that was really the defining moment that taught me that this is a lot bigger than what I thought it was.
And because you're tapping into not only your strengths, but also what you've been divinely called to be of service towards. And this is the key piece about supporting and understanding ourselves and going within. And I found, like, even in my story and in my journey, we were sharing, a little bit earlier about kind of how we have this shared passion around really helping other individuals and really opening up our ability to work with the mind, and the training that I'm doing in NLP and the work that I do, not even change management, emotional intelligence, all of these things are about change, about opportunity to shift your perspectives and, about being open to new things, to shifting your states. And I realize we're already like 30 minutes in, and I have so many questions still for you. Can we just, though, just take this pause, this breath, to breathe this moment in? Because the opportunity is with people listening to you now. I'm sure many are saying, wow, this is really exciting. I'm interested to learn about this. How is it that you're able to help those people find their story and then share their story effectively? I think this is an important piece. We all have these purposes and passions in us. So, how are you able to do this that's unique? We started at this at the very beginning of this podcast. So what is that? What can people learn to get this sweet sauce from you, to sign up, to come and, learn from you?
Yeah, and I'm here, Sandra, as long as you need me to. I love this type of stuff. So I don't feel like because it's 30 minutes, we gotta go. I'm here for it. Okay. Um,
Cool.
but I'll share this. There's a formula that I've developed through a lot of different reading and experience, but ultimately Netflix. And the way that I describe this is, how would you like the ability to control people's minds like Netflix does? And when people hear control minds, yeah, you can learn how to speak so that you can control people's minds. Sounds really crazy, don't it? But this is a really good thing, because when people listen to you speak, Sandra, there's a lot of things in their life, a lot of limited beliefs, a lot of false beliefs,
Yep.
a lot of self images that are not beneficial. And if you have the ability to control their mind and expand the vision that they have of themselves, you're doing them the greatest favor that you can ever do. Netflix can hold people's attention for 6 hours when they were supposed to go pick up their kids, work out, cook, and then they watch their favorite show instead of doing all of those things. The
It's
thing
so
that I
true.
teach is how can you utilize the same formula that Netflix, your favorite movies, and your favorite books all use to keep your attention, to make you feel emotionally connected to the characters, and to ultimately like make you feel like you're in the story. And really, there's 7 key things that I'll go through very quickly that I call them the 7 C's of storytelling. The first one is that there's always an identifiable character that has a goal, or excuse me, a relatable character that has a goal. Now, what I'm sharing right now, this is like applicable to anybody. Anybody can apply this because it's a universal formula. So the first thing is that every story has a relatable main character that has a goal. Typically, a lot of the times, it's going to be you. You're the main character. So when you're developing your story, ask yourself, okay, number one, what's my audience? Because that's the most important thing in the world. Because you can only be relatable if you know the audience that you have to be relatable to. So a lot of people are not clear on their audience. So get clear, number one, on what's the audience. That's the foundation of everything. Once you're clear on your audience, and we have a process within our business that we call audience intelligence, it's called conducting AI, where you become crystal clear on who exactly it is that you're speaking to. Because if you don't get clear on that, you'll never make any money. So that's the first thing. And more importantly, you'll never be able to help anyone. So number one, get clear on the audience. But once you do, okay, step number one is there's a relatable main character who has a goal. So what was a time in your life when you had a goal? Okay, so think about it, whatever. In every story, there comes a time along that journey when the main character is pursuing their goal and runs into an obstacle. Every story that I've shared today, I run into an obstacle.
Yep. True.
So that's step number 2. Step number 1, relatable main character who has a goal. Step number 2, the main character runs into an obstacle. So my girlfriend broke up with me. Let's see. I had to stop doing what I was doing because I didn't have the time no more. I got a new job. I lost my job. Let's stick with I lost my job.
Yeah.
So number 2 is the obstacle. Right.
Yeah.
I don't know. Number 2 is the obstacle. You guys know what that is for you. I don't know. Step number 3 is that obstacle creates an external conflict and an internal conflict. You can replace the word conflict with pain. External pain and internal pain. For example, I lost my job, let's say. The external pain is, man, I just lost my source of income.
Mm-hmm.
But the thing is not everybody can relate to your external pain. The reason we get really good at sharing our stories is because the stories and experiences that we share are unique to us. But the lessons that they teach are universal for all.
Mm-hmm.
So not everybody went through this experience that you did, but you have to learn how to craft and deliver your story in a way that although they did not have that specific experience, they feel like they understand and been through something similar. So if I lost my job, let's say the external pain was, and I lost my job and this really hurt because now I lost all my income. But that is not as important as the internal pain that it caused, because this is what people can relate to. And I lost my income, but now I really question my ability to be a father. And I asked myself questions like, what am I going to do? How am I going to support my family? And I was struggling and I was just looking for new ways to make it work. And I doubted myself. And I had all of these internal conversations that really made me question life. Okay, now pause. What did I do right there? In that, like that's literally how I talk. And I talk about my internal conversations. Why? Because when Sandra's head hits the pillow, or the person that's listening to me, when their head hits the pillow, they're having similar internal conversations. So if I have the ability to share my internal conversations and have it reflect back to the audience similar conversations that they're having in their own life, they're going to say, oh, wow, this guy understands me. And they're going to follow me. And they're going to follow my direction. So I always reflect back internal conversations that people are having by showing my own internal conversation. Okay, so that happens. So
Yep.
number one, there's a relatable main character who has a goal. The main character runs into an obstacle. The obstacle causes two types of pain. Number four, there's always a time of coming to the crossroads, meaning that this is where a decision has to be made. Do you go left or do you go right? Do you quit? Do you keep going? Do you stay with the person? Do you leave the person? And this is kind of the key turning point of events.
Mm-hmm.
So you come to this place and you say, oh boy. And I had to look in the mirror when I lost my job. And I had to ask myself this question, Deven, are you going to allow this situation to define you or refine you? And I sat there and I didn't know what to do. On one hand, I wanted to give up. And on the other hand, I just knew that I had a family to care for. So I said, Deven, you going to give up or are you going to keep going? Now, listen, as I share this, I'm sharing it from the first person and also the third person.
Mm-hmm.
Because now what that does is it transports the audience into your story. And now they feel like they're living your story as you share it. So now they're emotionally involved. They're like, oh my God, what is he going to do?
Yes. They're leaning in. They're leaning in. This is
They're
good.
leaning into your story.
Yeah.
Because you're sharing your internal conversation.
Yeah.
And I said things like, oh my God, Deven, what are you going to do? So very deliberate about that. So I'm sharing the crossroads that I came to. Why? Because everybody that's listening to me has had that moment in their life when they came to the crossroads, the defining moment where they had the opportunity to quit, to keep going, to go left, to go right. Okay. The next thing is the decision that you make at the crossroads leads to a result, right? There's an input and there's an output. So I made a decision. I'm going to go all in and I'm going to protect my family and I'm going to find a way to make it work. And then that led to me being able to land my dream job. Woohoo! Right. So there's always a result. That's cut and dry. Yeah, that's right. I did it. Or it could be, it didn't work out.
Or it didn't work out.
Right. So it's all dependent upon your specific situation. And you're always going to have multiple stories to share, but it always follows this framework. The next thing is number 6 is you have to get clear on the lesson that you learned from this experience. So what's the lesson you learned? Well, from this experience, I learned that although sometimes you're going to go through things that seem really difficult, you have to be willing to go all in to figure out life. Okay, that's an example, right? Because this whole thing I just said was an example. So get clear on the lesson that you learned. But that is not as important as the last step, the last C, which stands for contemplate. You have to contemplate not only what the goal is, what the lesson that you learned is, but what was the lesson for the audience? Because my mentor said this to me, said, Deven, nobody gives a rat's ass about you. They only care about 3 things. Number 1, who are you? Number 2, what do you have for me? And number 3, why should I care? So if you just share, this is what a lot of people do when they share their story. And I learned that you have to blank. The audience is like, what about me?
Yeah. What about me?
Yeah. So what I'll do is, and I'll say something like this. And what we teach inside of our program is key phrases. And we teach you how to go in a story to a lesson, like to a point where you share what you learned. And then, okay, now we transition, use this phrase to transition to this is what the audience can learn. So I'll share, it'll be something like this. And this taught me the valuable lesson that sometimes in life you have to take risks. So as you listen to me, this is what I need you to understand, that there's going to be times in your life. Now I'm turning it to the audience.
Yeah.
There has to be times in your life where you have to be willing to take risks. So you can share the same lesson that you had for yourself, but you have to address the audience and tell them that that is for them, or else they're just going to lose it in the process. So I'll just really recap it really quickly. Number 1, there's a main character. Number 2, the character comes and runs into some type of obstacle. Thirdly, the obstacle causes two types of pain, external and internal. And then they come to a crossroads where they just can't take it anymore. And they have to make a decision. Once they make a decision, it leads to a result. After they completed their journey, they got the result. Now you have to identify what was the lesson that I learned. And lastly, what is the lesson for the audience? And this is what I call my ultimate storytelling formula, Sandra. And if people want a copy of it, I'm trying to see. Damn, I wish I had a physical copy. But what I did is I developed a blueprint. It's a physical laminated blueprint that walks people through these 7 steps and enables you to implement it in your life and your business. So if people want a copy of it, all you have to do is go to ultimatestorytellingformula.com and you can go ahead and pick up your own copy. Wow. And then I guess, Sandra, for people that want to take it a step further, we have a mastermind that's a 12-week program that shows business owners how to incorporate this into their business so that they can really master the art of storytelling so that they can go and share their message one to many, not only deliver impact, but ultimately close and sell at a much higher level than they currently are by using the art of a story.
Well, you know what, Deven, thank you so much. Because I mean, that's your amazing intellectual property that you're sharing with my audience. I thank you so much. And for this opportunity. And I know people have been coming and going, and this will be recorded as well in the podcast. And it was so valuable because those are lessons that work. This is the opportunity to truly shift your life and take wherever you are in your business. Everyone has a story. There's always new ways to improve our effectiveness, isn't there?
Hey, Sandra, can I do it now? Can I share? I want to make sure I really give your audience something valuable. Can I share two stories that I think your audience absolutely has to develop and share?
Yes, thank you, please.
So there's 2 types of stories when you develop your presentations that you absolutely have to share with your audience, because you have to have the ability to transform an audience both individually and collectively. But how do you do that at the same time? That might seem like, I don't understand how to do that. Well, there's 2 stories that you have to share if you want to sell what it is that you have when you speak. Mm-hmm. But before we touch on that, you have to understand that you're going to get objections. There's going to be, I don't have the time. I don't have the money. Now, when you're selling on a webinar, a challenge, a masterclass, or just delivering a one-to-many presentation, people are not going to like literally say, I don't have the money. They're just not going to buy your stuff. But there's always a reason.
They're just going to shut that door.
Exactly. Like there's always going to be that reason. Yeah, so what most people do when they think about selling is they just talk about how do we overcome objections. But that's not the root cause of the objection. So in the personal development world, they say, if you want to change the fruit, you got to change the root. But most people, when they talk about selling, they don't talk about, okay, let's change the root of the objection. They just talk about, let's go for the objection. Okay. Yep. So they just try to change the fruit by changing the fruit. That doesn't make sense. You can't expect to get an orange from a mango tree. It just don't make sense. True. So what we do is we teach the process of getting to the root of the objection. Well, let's talk about that before I share these 2 stories, because it'll make a lot of sense. Sure. So on the surface level, people give you an objection, but where does the objection come from? It stems from an internal conversation. Think about it. In order for somebody to give you an objection, they first have to give it to themselves. So before someone tells Sandra or says to themselves or on a webinar or whatever, they're like, I don't got the money. Well, where does that come from? Well, first they had to tell themselves, oh boy, you know, I kind of really like this, but
that inner dialogue was
I got the money, right? I don't got the money, and this is scary. So they always have an inner conversation with themselves before they give an objection. But where does the inner conversation come from? Where does the inner dialogue come from? That comes from some type of belief that they hold. True. And this belief is subconscious. They don't know that they have this belief 99% of the time. The belief can be, well, money's really hard to come by. Well, credit isn't a good thing. I can't put it on a credit card. If I don't have it in full, I can't pay. Or, man, I don't think I can make that work. I don't think I could come up with them. So all of these beliefs drive the internal conversation. Yep. Where do the beliefs come from? It comes from a person's self-image, the person that they believe that they are. that drives a person's beliefs. And where does a person's self-image come from? It comes from the root of all objections, which is a person's self-identity. A self-identity is categorized by the words I am blank, I am blank, I am blank. And how are our self-identities formed? By our past experiences, our memories, our history, the things that we've gone through. That transforms itself into what we believe to be true about our lives. So now when we share our message, if we want to sell what we have to start with, okay, what's the objection? What's the internal conversation? What's the belief that causes that internal conversation? What's their self-image? And then what's their self-identity?
Mm.
But when we craft the presentation, we start in reverse order.
That's awesome. And Deven, I just want to make sure we just have time for one of these amazing stories, because it's very valuable. So we're listening intently. So let's go through one story, and then we'll have to.
Yeah, sure. So the first story is what we call the pain story. And the pain story is all about your ability to please both sides of the room. What I mean by that is in your audience, there's going to be people that are driven by pain, and there's going to be people that are driven by pleasure. So the pain story shares a time when you had an objection that the audience might have when you ask them to buy what it is that you have. I don't got the money. I got to talk to my spouse, whatever. And you shared the experience when you had that same objection. Mm-hmm. You share a story of, okay, I had that objection and it stopped me from taking action. And as a result of having that objection, it led to this bad result. I was stuck in the same place for 2 years, and it kept you in the same place.
Not a good result.
Yeah.
At all.
Now, what is that going to do? That's going to transfer the belief to the people in the room that are driven by pain, that, oh no, I have to take action, because if I don't, it's going to keep me in the same place. Mm-hmm. So that's the first story, is the pain story. The second story is what we call the pleasure story. And the pleasure story talks to the people that in the room that are driven by pleasure. That story is when you had an objection, you had that internal conversation of, oh boy, I don't have the money. But then you made the decision that you're going to take action, and you did. And then that led to a great result of, I doubled my revenue in 2 years or whatever. Subconsciously, that delivers a command to the person's subconscious mind that is driven by pleasure, that if I want to get great results, I have to invest in myself. So ultimately, these stories give commands and direction to people without ever saying, hey, you have to do this. It's through the ability to share the story that they understand what to do next.
That's so powerful. And I just want to thank you. There's just so much richness and wonderful, wonderful learnings that you shared with the audience today. And for those who are going to listen on the podcast when it goes up on all those wonderful platforms. And because I just want to share genuinely, I'm touched, because you took a lot of your time today to be with me in the Leadership Heart podcast. And what I admire the most, and I always go back to the three, and I actually have L's, the 3 L's of conscious leadership, because you demonstrate this. You are it. You have learned, you live it, and you lead it.
Oh, I like that. That's good.
Appreciate it. Yes, to learn, live, and lead. And it's the power in being able to do that. You've integrated all of these pieces into your purpose. You are so aligned with what Napoleon Hill speaks about, which is that, that red hot passion and the focus and the determination, and helping others to learn how to really take their business, whatever their story, and be able to resonate, to build the rapport. It's beyond just matching and mirroring. It's actually being able to make a huge influence and impact, open people up, their subconscious mind, to receive. You're getting ahead of the game. All these great tools and techniques, they're so powerful, and they work. And so I want to thank you for sharing that. And how can people learn a little bit more about you, Deven, and I really do hope that they jump on this opportunity to connect with you. What is your website? How do you want to be connected?
Yeah, I prefer if people just follow me on social media. You can go to Instagram. You can go to I am Deven Rodriguez. Deven is how you spell Devin for me. You can go to Facebook, Deven Rodriguez, LinkedIn, Deven Rodriguez, and shoot me a message and tell me that you found me on from Sandra's podcast. I think that would be awesome. And then, like I said, if you really want the ability to kind of learn this stuff, take it to the next level, shoot me a message and say, Devin, I'm really interested in this stuff. And I have a ton of resources that I could send you. And I really want you to go and download the Ultimate Storytelling Formula, ultimatestorytellingformula.com. I'm not going to tell them what, but when you hit that submit button on the next page, it's going to give you some incredible, incredible bonuses, absolutely free of charge. So there's no upsells in the funnel. There's none of that stuff.
Yeah.
So go there, and I think that people will really be pleased with what they see.
Well, you are absolutely this amazing individual who inspires so many people. Thank you for doing everything and all things that you do. As I said earlier, you do live by example. And this is the power of, really just leaning into yourself and awakening, as I always say, the hunger within you. I love Les Brown. We're get hungry, like we are hungry, get hungry, like have the life that you absolutely believe, because you can. You don't need to be stuck there and then or be anxious about the here that, like, it's the here and then now. You can do this. And I love all that you're doing. I thank you for being this powerhouse, and I'm so glad that I got to meet you on Clubhouse. And you're you're a thriver. You're helping people survive in an environment that, for some, depending on how they look at life, they could feel like they're surviving, but you take them to thriving. And I love that. And it's through story, because people, you touch them. And I think that's the power of what you do. So thank you so much, Deven. I'm going to say this concludes the Leadership Heart podcast from here in just outside of Vancouver, British Columbia. Wherever you are around the world, please make every day absolutely amazing. Commit yourself to learn, to live, and to lead the absolute best life you can. But focus, connect to your heart, to your mind, to a higher calling and consciousness, a power source, God, infinite intelligence, whatever it is for you. Because doing that, you can just have this most beautiful, rich, and wonderful life. With gratitude, I thank you for being here today. Take care. Thank you, Deven.
Bye-bye.
Talk to you soon. Bye-bye. Thank you.